Hello, and welcome to another edition of SCA 101. This video is going to be covering service, specifically volunteering at events. There are, in my opinion, two prongs to service: the event volunteering, and then positions that you can hold, either baronial or kingdom-wide, that are designated positions. I'll get into that in a later video. Today we're going to be covering specifically volunteering at events, which is very low scale, no huge commitment, just a couple of few hours of your time at any event you go to. One of the things is, any event, big or small, even the day events, require a ton of manpower to put on. And volunteering, just a little 2-hour block of your time, is a great way to even the workload and to allow the people who are working 40, 50, 60 hours in this week, it gives them just a little bit of an edge and allows them a little bit of a breather break. So, when you decide to volunteer, when you have time, what you're going to do is you're going to make 4 volunteers point. You will either hear people mention that, you can either ask about it up at front gate, up at Troll is what that is referred to. Regardless of how you figure it out, Volunteers Point is where you're going to go to sign up for your hours, whatever hours you can volunteer for. They're going to stick you in probably one of 2 main positions. That's either going to be up at Troll, like I said, up at the front gate, you're going to be part of the people who are taking the money and handing out the coins, or you're going to be on watch. Watch is, as the name implies, you're going to be watching for things. Very often, and most importantly, is going to be fire restrictions. If there's any kind of fire limits, or if there's a no burn going on at your event, or whatever the fire restrictions may be in your area, knowing what those restrictions are, it is your responsibility as watch to make sure everyone is paying attention to that. If there's any kind of a personal health problem, if you see a person who physically looks unwell, anything like that, if fire EMS or police need to be called, it is the watch's responsibility to have something to tell them when they get there. You're going to be the one who gives them an incident report. You are the adult in the room, basically. You're responsible for making sure there is a clear, logical explanation for what has transpired before they arrived. If someone has a medical emergency, a seizure, or anything of that nature, it's your responsibility. Hey, some people started yelling this way, I ran over here, I saw them having a seizure at this time, I radioed back to watch, they called the EMS at this time 4 minutes later, so on and so forth. It's not a huge requirement. There are very, very often entire events where there is no need for watch, but it's important to have watch at all times just in case. So, watch is very often one of the more undermanned positions. It's very hard to fill certain hours, particularly the late night hours, the graveyard shift between midnight and 6 a.m. That's a real rough time to get people to volunteer for. If you yourself are a graveyard person by nature, if you are a night owl and can contribute that, I cannot begin to express the amount of help you will give people by even giving one night of that. It's such a burden off of these people's shoulders, because particularly at the larger events, they need to have X amount of watch even at the late hours, because in all honesty, those are the hours where things are most prone to happen. People are going to leave fires unattended. People are going to drunkenly pass out on the street. So those late hours are when you honestly need watch more. And very often they will have some kind of gift or reward for people who are willing to do watches like that, those late night, all night watches. If you get in discussions with any of the autocrats, which are the people who host the events, they're going to be able to work with you on if you're willing to do that, or if you're willing to give them a particular set of time. So that's watch. It is basically first not even first response, it's first observation. You are first response if there is an emergency that needs to be quelled immediately. If there's a fire that's starting, you need to find a fire extinguisher. If there is a person drunkenly passed out in the street, puking, doing the choking on their own puke, you need to get them rolled over. You need to call what's known as the chirurgeon, which is the medical on staff on site is known as the chirurgeon. If you don't know that, you can just say medic. I need a doctor. Any kind of. If you don't remember the term chirurgeon, feel free to scream what you remember. So that's watch. Any kind of thing like that. Like I said, more often than not, you're going to go entire events, and especially entire shifts, without an emergency. But it's important to stay vigilant. Much like the Boy Scouts, always prepared. The other main one, as I said, was Troll, the front gate. As a newbie, you are limited in what you can do. You cannot accept money. If someone tries to hand you money, do not accept it because, well, at least for site fee, if they're just trying to give you money, I mean, take it. But if they're trying to pay you for site fee, you have to be what is known as a warranted officer to take money on behalf of the SCA. That is for strictly legal reasons. We are a nonprofit entity, but we accept cash for the requirements of what we do. As I've said, there are expenses for the event, so we need to accept money to pay for those expenses. That being said, there is a lot of legal litigation because of that. So you have to have special licensing through the SCA to say, hey, I can take money on behalf of the SCA. So when you go up to Troll, you cannot take any money. You can't break change. You can't open the box. You can't do any of that. You can point to the pamphlets that some people are going to need to sign. They're going to be able to explain to you who's going to need to sign what. You're going to be able to hand out chookies, hand out any booklets or flyers for that event. If you can recognize maps and read maps, you're going to be able to point out maps of where households and where baronies are on the map. So there is a bunch of other smaller, not even smaller, but there's a bunch of tasks that fall to Troll. You're kind of responsible for making sure everyone can figure out where they're going. If anyone has any questions, you might not know them, but you're going to be able to point to whoever's in charge and taking the money. Hey, they want to know where so-and-so is, or they want to know about this. So there is a lot of things to do at Troll. It's just they're important to know that you yourself cannot accept or cannot take the money for it. You can, however, do everything else. And once again, being there is super helpful to the people who are taking the money, because that means they don't have to do 800 things trying to get one person in. They can take the money, give them their change. The person's already basically out the door because you're handing them the things as they go. It speeds up the transaction because when there's a line, you really want to make it as quick and as fluid as possible. So those are the two main ones. There are several other smaller positions when it comes to volunteering. When you go to Volunteers Point, they're going to be able to tell you the rest of them. Those two main ones I wanted to touch because they are very different, but very similar in that they have low requirements of responsibility, but there are still things to be aware and responsible of and for. If you have physical limitations, especially body-wise, so that walking is difficult, Troll is fantastic because you can bring your own chair. You can set yourself up comfortably under Troll so that you can make yourself as comfortable as possible to facilitate whatever physical limitations you may have. My father has a very bad back and bad knees. He worked amazingly long hours at Troll for several events, and that is because the work allowed him to do that. So even with physical limitations, you can still do it. You just need to let people know, hey, these are my physical limitations. And when you hit your wall, it's important of expressing yourself to those people, letting them know, hey, I'm sorry, I am physically tapped out, or even I am mentally, emotionally tapped out. I need to call it here. We prefer if there's any way you can finish out whatever shift that you had agreed to. If you had agreed to a 3-hour shift, but then something happens and they can't get a second person to fill your place, and you and you just honestly can't do it anymore, feel free. Don't agree to anything that's going to limit you and going to wear you down. But once again, as I said, even a 1 hour stretch, a 2 hour stretch, it's helpful beyond words to the people that put it on and work just ungodly hours so that all of these people can have fun. So there you have it. Two very easy things to volunteer for. You can give 2 hours, you can give 4 hours. If you've got a day, you can take a day and just hang out and have fun. You can bring, if you have a friend who brought you into the SCA, you can drag them along to go volunteer with you, and he can explain more of the SCA to you. You guys can get some one-on-one time. Additionally, they can pair you off with someone that you've never met before, and you can make a new friend in a day that way. Spend 3 hours with them. Pick their brain about everything. Be like, oh, you fight. I've been thinking about fighting. Oh, you drum. I want to get into drumming. I used to do stick drumming in school. Anything like that, it just opens up just avenues of potential here. So all I can really say is that people look at volunteering like it's, I don't want to go and have to work while I'm here. But in all honesty, you can't call it work because you're having that much fun doing it. You can bring a friend and you guys can spend 2 hours just laughing your butt off while you're working. And it gives back to the society that's giving you that much fun. I can't express how much help that little bit goes. There's an expression, many hands make light work. If you just give us your hands for just a couple of hours, and if everyone does it, nobody has to work too much, and everyone gets to have a ton of fun and have a blast the entire event. And that's what the idea is. Everyone works a little, so no one has to work a lot. So all I can ask is, please pitch in your 2 cents. Do what you can. Don't overwork yourself. But beyond anything else, come out and have as much fun as you possibly can. This is Woolrich saying, I'll see you out there.